Gabriel Garcia Marquez is a Colombian author who wrote using magical realism to comment on society. He wrote many novels and novellas such as 100 Years of Solitude and Chronicle of Death Foretold. However, he also wrote many short stories, some of which are The Handsomest Drowned Man, A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings, Death Constant Beyond Love, and The Last Voyage of the Ghost Ship, which are able to express how both men and women are oppressed and limited by the patriarchy. Thus, a feminist lens which analyzes how gender structures are portrayed in literature is an appropriate method to explore concepts such as gender roles and the patriarchy. According to Catherine J. Nash, the patriarchy is a system of relationships, beliefs, and values embedded in political, social, and economic systems that structure gender inequality between men and women. Attributes seen as feminine or pertaining to women are undervalued, while attributes regarding as masculine or pertaining to men are privileged.
According to Nikki Lisa Cole, gender is a performance composed of a set of learned behaviors that are associated with and expected to follow sex category. While sex is how we classify one's biological sex, which is used to categorize humans as male, female, or intersex. While as is stated by Gianna Figuera, gender performances are the behaviors that we learn and perform based on cultural norms of femininity and masculinity to conform to the normal practices of those with a certain gender. As such, through this line of inquiry, it is apparent that Gabriel Garcia Marquez uses characterization in his short stories A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings, The Handsomest Drowned Man, Death Constant Beyond Love, and The Last Voyage of a Ghost Ship to reveal the damage caused by the limited gender roles under the patriarchy.
Marquez conveys the damage caused by limited gender roles under the patriarchy through the characterization of Elisenda and Pelayo in A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings. When Pelayo found the old man, his wife Elisenda was putting compresses on the sick child. When many people came to see the old man, Elisenda is the one who cleaned up after them, causing her spine to get all twisted from sweeping up so much marketplace trash. Also, when they became successful, Elisenda bought some satin pumps with high heels and many dresses of iridescent silk, the kind worn on Sunday by the most desirable woman in those times. Her role as the caretaker of the child and the visual imagery used to describe the clothes she bought is a metaphor that emphasizes her feminine role. It also states that this is what is worn by the most desirable woman in those times, which implies that the most desirable women are those that are feminine and conform to a feminine gender performance. As a result, she is characterized as a traditional housewife who conforms to feminine gender performances. The metaphor used emphasizes Elisenda's pain that results from her limited role. Through this, it's revealed how damaging normative feminine roles are to women. Furthermore, Elisenda conforms to traditional gender, which requires women to take care of children, dressing a certain way, and clean. This depicts the setting as a patriarchal one where women and men fit into their classical roles. Therefore, Marquez portrays women as gentle, feminine caretakers in his story, which is damaging as it limits women to one job, thus limits their opportunities. Furthermore, in the beginning of the story, Pelayo was throwing away the crops to help cure his sick child, and when they found the old man, he was the one who dragged him out of the mud and locked him up with the hens in the wire chicken coop. Additionally, Father Gonzago, before becoming a priest, had been a robust woodcutter, and then moved on to take a position of power as a priest. Pelayo takes on more masculine tasks such as throwing away the crabs, dragging the old man out of the mud, and locking him up. These lexical choices evoke strength and masculinity since the words used have aggressive connotations. Furthermore, robust denotes strength, which emphasizes the priest's masculinity. In addition, priest and woodcutter are both classically masculine jobs, which further emphasize the normative gender roles men in the village have. Furthermore, being a priest is a position of power. Along with this, Pelayo is portrayed as a provider for the family, meaning that he has a job and does all the more masculine tasks that require strength and is not involved in the more feminine activities carried out by Elisenda. Thus, Marquez is able to portray how men are limited to do masculine tasks. Along with this, according to Mary Sterigo-Kita, the workplace is a key setting where gender issues and organizational structures may influence occupational health and safety practices. and men in high-risk occupations may experience increased exposure to physical risk associated with mechanical, electrical, or chemical elements, violence and psychological hazards, and normative expectations relating to masculinity, sometimes referred to as hypermasculinity or hegemonic masculinity, which demand that men be physically tough and fearless in the face of risk or danger. These traits are depicted in Pelayo and Father Gonzaga's performances since they both have jobs that require strength and put them at safety risk. They are limited to these jobs as a result of the barrier structure society has placed on them. This has caused them to believe that they have to perform a certain way in order to be accepted by society. Thus, Marquez conveys how limited gender performances under the patriarchy can be damaging through Elisenda and Pelayo's limited gender roles and a very old man with enormous wings.
Through the characterization of Laura Farina and Senator Sanchez in Death Constant Beyond Love, Marquez conveys how limited gender performances under the patriarchy can be damaging. When the protagonist, Senator Sanchez, meets Laura Farina, the girl he had an affair with after her father sent her to him, he scrutinized her unusual beauty, which was even more demeaning than his pain. Then he described her appearance and stated that her hair was the mane of a young mare and her huge eyes were brighter than the light. He then began trying to take advantage of her, and she tried to say something, but there was only enough air for her to breathe. However, he found a padlock in the way whose key is with her father. Use of the word scrutinized and unusual beauty implies that the senator judged Laura's appearance, as the word scrutinized denotes critical observation. Moreover, the metaphors used to describe her appearance emphasize her innocence and femininity by comparing her hair to that of a mare and describing her eyes as huge and bright, which evoke images of childlike purity. Additionally, use of the words more demeaning than his pain conveys that her beauty was even more of a driving force behind the senator's actions and abandonment of morality than the pain of knowing people die soon. Thus, Laura is shown to be valued for her beauty, innocence, and purity, and is blamed for the senator's shortcomings. Her inability to speak highlights her lack of power and confinement to a silent and passive role. In addition, Laura's body being physically locked depicts that she has no agency over herself or her body, and that she is at the mercy of her father or future husband. This objectifies her since she is seen as a commodity that is passed between men. Thus, the setting is shown to be a patriarchal one, in which women lack power and agency and are valued only for their femininity. This is damaging because it oppresses women by limiting their power and opportunities and objectifying them. According to Save the Children, harmful gender norms deny millions of girls their right to education, health, and independence, since girls around the world are kept from attending school in favor of gender norms related to their role in household chores and the position of girls in society. Their voices are undervalued if heard at all, their childhoods are stolen, and the countries where they live are robbed of their talent and potential. This is portrayed through Laura's character, who is objectified and viewed as a commodity that is traded between men. She is limited to a passive role which is subservient to men. This limits her opportunities and stops her from reaching her full potential. Thus, Marquez conveys how limited gender roles under the patriarchy can be damaging through the characterization of Laura Farina and Senator Sanchez in Death Constant Beyond Love. Additionally, while presenting his campaign, Senator Sanchez felt a strange disdain for those who were fighting for the good luck to shake his hand, and he didn't feel sorry for the groups of barefoot Indians who could scarcely bear the hot saltpeter coals of the sterile little square. He then silenced the applause with a wave of his hand and began his speech, which had not occurred to him in the nature of telling the truth, but rather as the opposite of a fatalistic pronouncement by Marcus Aurelius in the fourth book of his Meditations. By asserting that the senator felt a strange disdain for those who idolize him, he is revealed to be apathetic and unappreciative, since disdain denotes contempt, despise, and scorn. His ability to silence the crowd with a wave of his hand characterizes him as powerful by evoking images of an orchestra conductor. The allusion to Marcus Aurelius, who is an emperor and therefore is not elected democratically, implies the senator is corrupt. Additionally, the assertion that the speech did not occur to him in the nature of telling the truth adds to this by implying that what he's saying is a lie. The senator is characterized as apathetic, powerful, and corrupt, and selfish. He is shown to conform to traditionally masculine gender roles. This reveals that the setting is a patriarchal setting in which men are given power despite being undeserving. Men's apathetic and emotionless yet powerful performances can be damaging, as they are given power but do not use it wisely or to better society. They are barred from showing and developing their emotions and yet are expected to make educated decisions for the good of all. For this reason, they use it for personal gain and thus aid in spreading exploitation and corruption. Thus, Marquez conveys how limited gender performances under the patriarchy can be damaging through the characterization of Laura Farna and Cesar Sanchez in Death Constant Beyond Love.
Gabriel Garcia Marquez is able to highlight how limited gender performances under the patriarchy can be damaging in The Handsomest Drawn Man in the World, by presenting classical female and male gender performances. To begin with, after the drawn man was discovered by everyone in the village, all of the women had stayed behind to care for the drawn man. All of the women dressed him, combed his hair, cut his nails, and shaved him. The word care denotes being protective and attention-giving. Hence, the lexical choice care suggests that the woman had genuine feelings of affection and concern for the drawn man. In addition, the words dressed, combed, cut, and shaved are all capable of emphasizing how the women were caring for the drawn man. As a result, the women are described as compassionate, helpful, caring, and kind. These characteristics are frequently linked with women, resulting in a patriarchal society. Therefore, Marquez is able to portray how women in society are always gentle, kind, and caring to everyone. This is damaging because it limits them to the role of a caretaker and their opportunities in life. According to Save the Children, often women and girls are confined to fulfilling roles as mothers, wives, and caretakers. Gender norms position girls as caretakers, which leads to gender inequality in how roles are distributed at the household level. Moreover, women spend 2 to 10 times more time on unpaid caregiving and domestic work than men. In other words, women are more likely to conform to the stereotypically feminine roles in society, such as parenting, caretaking, or being a wife, all of which are powerless in comparison to men. Women also have to perform more unpaid domestic work and caregiving than men, demonstrating the limited responsibilities women have and the gender inequality. On top of that, men also perform traditional roles. When the drowned man was discovered by everyone in the village, the men carried him out of the water. The men also said that drowned man weighed almost as much as a horse. The word carried connotes strength and power. Hence, the use of the lexical choice carried implies how strong men were needed to be able to carry the drowned man. Men were the only ones who would carry the drowned man, underlining how they are the only ones who are strong. Furthermore, the simile comparing the drowned man's weight to a horse assumes how heavy the drowned man is and how strong people are expected to carry him due to his weight, which in this case is men. Due to this, the setting perpetuates traditional male gender roles and highlights how the setting is patriarchal. Moreover, men are seen as strong, powerful, and courageous. Therefore, in the text, Marquez is able to portray men's confinement to fit into roles that demand and requires strength. This is damaging because it shows how men are limited to be strong and masculine. In sum, Marquez is able to highlight how limited gender performances under the patriarchy can be damaging in The Handsomest Drawn Man in the World by showing classical female and male gender performances. Marquez conveys the damage caused by limited gender roles under the patriarchy through the protagonist and his mother in The Last Voyage of the Ghost Ship. For instance, the mother couldn't stop thinking of her husband, and when she sat down on one chair to mourn him, she brought back the memory of her dead husband. The more the blood in her heart bubbled up and turned to chocolate. Then the mother got chills and fevers until eventually her body was found dead in the easy chair and half rotted away as after a snake bite. Because of this occurrence, her son had to get used to the miserable routine of an orphan, as the son of the widow who had brought the throne of misfortune into the village. Stream of consciousness is used to emphasize the mother's obsession with her husband by displaying her inner thoughts. The visual imagery used evokes images of poison through the use of the words bubbled up, turned to chocolate, and chills and fevers. Also, by stating that the boy is known as son of the widow who had brought the throne of misfortune into the village implies that his mother's fate affected his life and caused him to be ostracized. This shows the mother's obsession with her husband and how her obsession led to her death by poisoning her. She's limited to a passive role, in which she mourns her husband and doesn't move from her chair, and is unable to progress. Thus, this signifies how women are restricted to certain roles and tied to men in their lives, such as their husband. Moreover, the effect of this on her son emphasizes the damage it can cause not only to the woman, but to those around her. Added to this, after the protagonist tried to show the people in his village the ghost ship, he saw the people covered him with blows and left him so twisted, causing him to be drooling with rage, and repeated to himself, "Now they're going to see who I am," throughout the rest of the story. After this, he decided to prove his masculinity by stealing a boat, crossing the bay, and spending the evening waiting for his great moment. The refrain, "Now they're going to see who I am," which is repeated throughout the story, emphasizes his obsession as it reveals how he is focused on just one central idea. Additionally, it evokes the idea of epics, which typically depict masculine heroes overcoming challenges, and thus justifies his obsession with his goal as a heroic venture. Stream of consciousness is used to reveal how this obsession led him to stealing the boat and thus turning to crime. Therefore, as a setting is patriarchal society in which men are encouraged to be independent and follow their goals at all costs. Thus, men are confined to active roles, which can be damaging, as pressure to meet expectations can lead to compromise their morality for their goal. According to Sean Michael Reed, men commit crime at a higher rate than women, and gender disparity is not due to the fact that men experience more strains, as prior research has indicated that women reporting experiencing strains at rates either equal or higher than men. Instead, the disparity is due to the fact that men experience gender-specific strains that are more conducive to crime than women. Often these strains relate directly to their masculinity. Specifically, many of these goals are tied directly to masculine ideals such as monetary success and autonomy. The repeat failure to achieve these goals may lead to the man-boy to feel as though he is failing to be a man. This continual strain may lead him to view crime as the only coping mechanism for their diminished masculinity. This can be seen through the protagonist's character, and the peer pressure to be a man and reach his goal leads him to become obsessed and turn to crime. Therefore, it is apparent that Marquez conveys the damage caused by limiting gender roles under the patriarchy through the protagonist and his mother in the last voyage of the ghost ship.
All in all, Gabriel Garcia Marquez conveys the damage caused by limited gender roles under the patriarchy through characterization in his short stories, A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings, The Handsomest Drowned Man, Death Constant Beyond Love, and The Last Voyage of the Ghost Ship. In A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings, the mother helps to portray how women are confined to the role of a gentle caregiver, and the father and priest serve to reveal how men are pushed to be more aggressive. In The Handsomest Drowned Man, the woman's performance also serves to reveal how women are pushed to be caregivers, which limits their opportunities, while the men's performance conveys how they are forced to take on jobs that require strength.
Laura Farina's character in Death Constant Beyond Love highlights how women lack power and opportunities as they are limited to roles that are subservient to men and lack agency. Meanwhile, Senator Sanchez's character reveals how men are given power and yet are pushed to be apathetic and emotionless, leading to increased corruption. Lastly, in The Last Voyage of the Ghost Ship, the mother reveals the damage caused by the passive role assigned to women through her death, and the protagonist demonstrates how the pressure placed on men to take on the role of the breadwinner and be successful can push them to crime. Overall, these texts serve to convey some of the different ways in which the patriarchy can limit people through gender performance, but there are many other ways in which the patriarchy can be damaging.